Hey there, you got an awesome idea for a new feature, but turning it into reality can be tough. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear spec and some draft code to start with using Claude. Let's get started. First things first, grab your favorite coding environment. We're going to tackle this step by step. So, you've got this great idea for a new feature. But what exactly does that mean? It can be vague or even contradictory sometimes. By clearly defining the feature in a spec, we'll have a North Star for our development journey. Let's create a folder named my__feature to keep things organized. Inside it, make a file called Spec.md. Bash dear my__feature. cd my__feature. Touch Spec.md. Now, open Spec.md. Let's lay out the feature in a structured way. 1. Title. A brief and clear title for your new feature. 2. Objective. What problem does this solve? Why is it important? 3. Functionality. How will it work? Include key functionalities. 4. User flow. Walk through how a user would interact with the feature. 5. Metrics. How will you measure its success? For example, to enhance developer productivity by automatically suggesting relevant code snippets. 1. The system should recognize common coding patterns and structures. 2. It should suggest matching closing brackets, parentheses, quotes, etc. as the user types. 3. Provide a list of related functions or variables based on context. 1. As you type in Python, it should automatically complete to __name ___ with an option for you to select the appropriate part. 2. When typing print, a drop-down menu appears listing known print statements and their arguments. Developer satisfaction score based on user feedback. Number of interactions from developers over time. Now that we have our spec, let's break it down into actionable steps. Open your terminal or IDE and type bash Claude Spec.md. This command will analyze your feature spec and output a draft of the code structure you'll be working on. Claude will provide suggestions for classes, methods, and even some initial code snippets. Take a look at what it generated to ensure everything makes sense. By defining our feature properly and leveraging Claude's insights, we've laid a solid groundwork for development. All right, you've got an idea in your head. Great. Now let's get organized by setting up your project directory. This is the first step in turning that rough idea into something concrete and workable. First things first, open a terminal window or your preferred code editor. We're going to create a new folder for this project. Let's call it my_feature. Type this command, bash dear my_feature and cd my_feature. This will create the directory and immediately change into it, so you can start working right away. Next, we want to initialize a Git repository in this folder. Git is going to be our version control system for tracking changes as you work on your spec and code. Initialize it by typing bash git init. Once that's done, you'll have an empty but properly set up project directory with a .git folder hidden inside. All right, so now that we have our project directory all set up, let's make sure we have a solid plan in place for your feature. By creating a proper spec, you'll not only ensure clarity, but also save time by avoiding unnecessary rework later on. First things first, open Spec.md in your text editor. Type the following into it, bash echo my feature \n overview \n. Your overview here, Spec.md. This will create a new file called Spec.md with some initial structure that we can fill out together. Now, fire up Claude by running Claude Spec.md. Claude will walk you through the process of defining your feature's requirements and breaking down the user stories. Think about what your feature is supposed to do for users and jot down these details in the overview section. For example, if you're adding a new notification system, overview. Users should receive timely notifications for important events. Notifications can include emails or pop-ups based on user preferences. Users can customize how they want to be notified. Claude will prompt you to expand on these points and suggest additional details. Just keep typing what comes to mind, and Claude will help refine your spec into something actionable. By the end of this process, you'll have a clear and comprehensive spec that serves as both a guide for coding and a communication tool among team members. So now that we have a rough spec from Claude, let's refine it to something more concrete and detailed. This is where you really get to shine as an engineer, adding depth and ensuring everyone understands exactly what needs to be built. First off, take a look at Spec.md. You should see the general outline of your project, but there are probably some vague spots that need fleshing out. Maybe it mentions a feature, but doesn't specify how that feature behaves or interacts with others. That's where we'll focus today. Open up your terminal and navigate to your project directory. We want to use Claude Code, edit Spec.md to make these changes interactively. This command will open the file in your default text editor, giving you a chance to add more details without leaving your coding environment. Once it opens, start adding specifics where necessary. Maybe you need to define user roles and permissions, or outline how the API endpoints should behave under different conditions. Whatever needs clarification, make it happen here. There's no rush. Take your time to ensure everyone on the team has a clear understanding. Let's say we're working on a feature that integrates with an external API. In Spec.md, you might add something like, users must be authenticated via OAuth 2 with Google. Redirect URI. Dvopicie dvojna poševnica oura pika kom poševnica od poševnica Google poševnica callback. Scope, profile, email. Get/users returns a list of users with their roles and permissions. Requires authentication. Permissions, user, read. Post/login. Logs in the user using OAuth 2 credentials. Make sure to save your changes. When you're done editing, type WQ or X in Vim, or simply close the file if you're using another editor. The Claude Code edit Spec.md command will automatically sync these updates back with Claude. Now that we have a clearer, more detailed specification, we can move on to coding. But first, let's commit this new version of Spec.md to our repository. Run git add Spec.md. Git commit refine spec details for feature X. By the end of this session, you'll have a much clearer and more detailed specification that everyone understands. You can now move forward with coding against this refined spec. Now that you have a refined spec, let's bring it to life with some actual code. You've got all the details laid out in Spec.md, and now we need to turn those ideas into something tangible. Open your terminal or command prompt and navigate to your project directory. Make sure you're working on the branch where this feature will live. Type out this command. Bash Claude Spec.md osrc myfeature.p. This tells Claude Code to generate a Python file based on the spec in Spec.md, and it'll save that file as src/myfeature.py. The O flag specifies the output directory, so make sure src exists or create it if it doesn't. Claude will analyze your spec and generate a basic implementation of your feature. It's not perfect. Claude is smart, but still needs some refinement. Check through the code to ensure everything aligns with what you've outlined in your spec. By the end, you should have a src/myfeature.py file ready for further work. You can now start fleshing out the details and adding any necessary logic based on your refined spec. Great job getting through all that. By now, you've got a clear spec for what you need to build and some initial code running locally. You're almost there, but we've still got a few final steps to make sure everything is safe and sound. First off, take a moment to review both your spec document and the initial code. Double-check that they align perfectly. If anything feels off or needs tweaking, now's the time to adjust them. Once you're happy with everything, it's time to save your progress. Next, commit the files to Git. Open up a terminal window in your project directory. Navigate to where your Spec.md and initial code are located and type git add git commit initial spec and rough draft of code. After that, push everything to your remote repository. If you don't have one already set up, consider doing so now. Use a command like this. Git push origin main. This will ensure that all the work you just did is backed up on GitHub or wherever you're hosting it. Now, to make things easy for next time, let's open the project in your editor. Go ahead and run code. This command with code Should bring up your code editor with all files ready for refining. You're almost done here. Keep Claude around. You can always ask it for help if needed, whether that's clarifying a part of the spec or improving some piece of code. And remember, as you move through this project, feel free to reach out to Claude and me anytime. We're here to support you every step of the way.